Hi there, and welcome to our Skills Alberta live video for your regional competition. So just going to do a quick introduction here today. My name is Chef Jason St. Laurent, and I am the Skills Alberta Provincial Technical Committee Chair. On my far left, we've got Chef Ian Campbell. He is our Provincial Technical Committee Co-Chair. And we have Peter Keith, our esteemed colleague here, who's been on our Provincial Technical Committee for many years and also a Skills Alberta alumni and has competed quite a bit throughout his illustrious career. So thank you both for being here as well and helping me out with this demo. So how we've organized today is we're going to kind of go through the dishes in a little bit of a mixed order so that we can get through this in the full hour that we've got. If you do have any questions as we are going, if you're tuning in live, please you can type them in there and our moderators will pass those on to us as we go when we get a chance and we're able to hopefully answer your questions live. We won't be touching too much on the provincial competition just because of, again, the lack of time here, but please, if you do have a question about that specifically, we do have that scope here. Hopefully we can answer those questions as well as we go, but the main focus for today is that regional to get you all ready for that competition and those competitions coming up. So without further ado, I'm going to pass things over to Ian and Peter, and they're going to kind of walk us through, we're going to be starting out with the rhubarb tart with the streusel topping. And again, we're really hoping that we've got enough time here to get things baked off, get things made, so we can kind of show you the finished product. I know that's really important to a lot of you competitors and teachers out there, so that you get a real good idea of what can be done here. So I will pass the...
So basically we started off, and again because of the time constraints, I already pre-made the patty soup. And a couple of little pointers for most of you competitors out there. Make sure your butter is warm or soft. If it's still a little firm, you're going to end up with a few little nubbles in there, which when you go to blend, it should blend in harmoniously with your sugar and all the other ingredients in there. It took me to do the recipe about 5 to 7 minutes to get it mixed up. And then you have to put it in the fridge for at least half an hour. So once you've made your dough, roll it into a nice ball, flatten it a little bit, wrap it in saran wrap, put it in your fridge so at least it can settle and the gluten that's been developed by mixing that flour in there has a chance to settle. Otherwise your pastry's going to be a little on the tough side. So we've done that, and what I'm going to do is we're going to go over and show you how to roll it out, put them in. But in the meantime, you want to tell them?
Do the onlays?
You want to do it? Okay,
sure.
So I'll get this.
So, like Chef Campbell said, most of the time in competition you see people starting with the dessert because so often pastry items, fillings, ice creams, all of these types of components need to sit in the fridge or freezer for a while. So let's say you're in the competition, you get that tart dough out of the way. You might want to look at doing your creme anglaise next. So we'll do that here today. So I've got a few pans in front of me, or a few sauce pans. So if you're following along with your recipe, you'll see that you need a few different things to make this. You need a small pot for your milk to heat up in advance. You need a bowl to whisk together your eggs and sugar. And then you need a double boiler, so I would recommend just having your hot water ready to go so that once that anglaise is mixed, you can return it to the heat and start the process of cooking it. So we've got everything assembled here. Let's see how hot this is. Okay, perfect. So we're going to get our milk going. I'm going to do it over direct heat because I'm standing right here. I know I can watch it and keep an eye on it. If you want to scald your milk in the double boiler, it might take quite a while, so you just have to keep that in mind. So with the double boiler setup, you need to have a heavy bottomed sauce pot with simmering water, and then you need a bowl that will fit nicely on top of that. If you have a mismatch of sizes, you don't want to be starting to do this and have your bowl fall into the water and then suddenly you spill water in your mixture. So try to think a little bit in advance about how you set all this up. It will save you a lot of time. So while the milk is on there, we're just going to whip together the egg yolks and sugar. I think we're doing a half. Is this a half batch?
This is a half.
This is a half recipe just because we're only making.
Actually, it's a third. Sorry. Okay, it's a third recipe. So with these recipes that we provide in the project, you do need to scale them down so that it's appropriate for the requested amount that we're looking for your final product. So yes, this recipe originally is for 12 egg yolks. We've scaled this down to a third, which is 4 egg yolks. It's going to get you a little bit closer to what you're going to need. For our Edmonton regional, I think most regionals you need to produce 2 plates for the finished product. So this is definitely going to be more than enough. You could probably even get away with 2 egg yolks. Obviously, for an anglaise like this and working with the custard and making this type of product, the more you scale down your recipe, a lot of times the tougher it is to make. So we don't want you to scale it down too much so that you don't have enough volume, etc., to get a really nice finished product.
We're really whipping the egg yolks and sugar aggressively. Part of what happens is by adding all this air into that mixture, when I add the hot milk to this, it helps temper the heat a little bit to make sure our eggs don't curdle on us or cook on us. So the way you make a custard like this is you very gradually increase the heat to the point where the proteins start to set and you thicken your sauce. But if I just took this and immediately put it over the pot, we would actually make scrambled eggs, which is not what we're going for today.
So we're just heating up our milk here, like Peter said, over direct heat. So you do want to watch it because it will scald quickly. This is induction burner, so really it's instant heat. Obviously what you're working on in your respective areas for your regional is going to differ. But for provincials, we do have ceramic cooktops, correct? Ceramic cooktop? Or is it coil cooktop? It's coil cooktop, sorry. So with that, when you do turn down your heat from high, it obviously takes a while for some of that heat to kind of dissipate. But we do want to make sure that you don't over-scald that.
So you can see how much this is thickened. And you can actually see lots of tiny little air bubbles in there, which is a good thing. That's what we want.
Got a lot more volume to it.
And our milk, you can see some steam coming off, so that's almost where we want it.
While he's finishing that, Ian does have his tart shells rolled out.
So we took the paste and we've rolled it out. You want it about no more than about a 1/4 inch thick. And then I took the rings, very carefully laid my pastry over the top. One of the things you want to be very careful is when you're layering it into your pie or the ring, make sure you pull the pastry up from the side, use the back end of your finger and just push it in to the side. Don't use your finger, don't use any sharp objects. The last thing you want to do is puncture that tart shell. Otherwise, when you go to add in your filling, it's going to leak through and it's not going to look very presentable after it's cooked through. Then once we got that all nicely laid in, I just put the rolling pin over the top of the rings, pulled off the excess pastry, rolled it up, put that to one side. Should anything happen, should these burn when you're cooking them off, at least you've got your pastry, and allow that pastry just to relax again until you need it as well. So here we've got the rings ready, and we're going to put these in the oven at a 450 oven, and we're going to bake them for about 10 or 15 minutes to get them a nice golden brown.
Perfect. So our milk is scalded, so we're going to temper this into the mixture. So when you're tempering something, the idea is if you have all of this boiling hot milk and you pour it into the eggs, it's a real shock of heat all at once that might overcook the surface or overcook the first points where it comes into contact. So by slowly pouring in a very small amount of the hot milk into the cold eggs, we're kind of meeting in the middle with the temperature. Then once we've done that a little bit, we can add the rest of the milk. We know that it won't cause any problems. So I'm just whisking it continuously, pouring in a small little drizzle at first until it loosens up.
And if you're unsure of the temperature of your mixture, just put your hand on the bottom of the bowl as you're kind of mixing, and that's going to tell you kind of where you're at. And then eventually he should be able to add the rest of his milk when that temperature, or sorry, when the mixture is tempered.
All right, so now we'll pour the rest in. And now we have our water bath ready to go, Lady Chef. So we're gonna put this over our heat source. And if you're following along on the recipe, you'll see heat it slowly, stirring constantly until it thickens enough to coat the back of the spoon. So that's sort of the traditional way to check. But what you can also do is use a thermometer, and you're looking for 185 Fahrenheit, 85 Celsius. That's the finished temperature where the proteins are setting and it's thickening up. So we'll let this go. We can probably move on now to the next part. Sure.
If you want to talk about your streusel topping,
okay. So our streusel topping, basically we took some butter, some sugar, some flour, and again, make sure that your butter's nice and soft. And we just put them in, and I just did a nice little rubbing motion with my hands and my fingers, and just work it and just keep working it all together. We also put a little cinnamon in just for some flavor, and we're just nicely just rubbing it all together. And as you can see, it's going to come together and make nice little breadcrumbs. And again, this could be prepped and then put to one side just to finish off your tarts. And go ahead.
The filling. So for the filling, I know it does say fresh rhubarb. You know, with the regionals and it being winter time, and even with provincials being end of May, it's a little early for the fresh rhubarb. So more than likely, you're going to count on getting frozen rhubarb. Now, a couple things that's gonna do. It doesn't need to cook as long because you're already using a semi-cooked product with the IQF rhubarb. Sorry. So it's not going to need as much cooking, so it's going to be a little softer. You're going to need a little more moisture, seepage out of it when you are cooking it. But what I did, I'll just kind of talk through. Started my my butter in my pot. Added my rhubarb to my pot, slowly cooked that to kind of extract some of the water, and it does say in your recipe to soften your rhubarb. Then I add my sugar once that's cooked, separating my cold water and cornstarch, and I basically will mix that together. That's called a slurry, and that's going to be our thickening agent. The method that we're doing here is the cooked pie filling method. So it's basically pre-cooking that pie filling. We're blind baking those tart shells. When that comes out, we're going to add our cooked cool. This is nice and cool. Our cooled pie filling to that, adding our streusel topping, and then really just kind of finishing it in the oven. Some competitors might, just put it in the oven a little bit and might not be totally happy with the color on top. Maybe they lightly torch the top. There's all sorts of different options you can do when you are plating this and finishing your tart. So basically, we've got our nice finished filling. We added the second component of butter and salt right at the end. Once we took it off, let that kind of stir in, and there's our finished pie filling. And really, I know this is all kind of made ahead of time. You're probably saying, well, I would have loved to see it made. Really, it didn't take us too long to make this. We made this right before the demo, so that we could be ready and again have a little bit more time. So you've got your finished filling there, and we've got our wonderful streusel topping, and then Peter's just working on thickening up the anglaise. One thing with this anglaise and working with egg yolks or eggs like this is it can go from 0 to hero very quickly. And what I mean by that is it's going to thicken up very, very fast, and you can curdle the eggs quite quickly. So you really need to be constantly whisking. You really don't want to walk away when you've started making that anglaise. Commit to it right to the end to ensure you've got a perfect product the first time, and then you don't have to remake it.
And then another way to prepare is to have a bowl of ice or very cold water, or even also a pre-chilled bowl to transfer this into once it's ready, because even if I pull this off the heat, the bottom of my bowl is still very, very hot and will continue to overcook the mixture. So you want to be able to cool the bowl down right away.
Are there any questions right now live, or are we...
Someone asked whether they were allowed to bring an induction burner if they're all into the competition.
So nationally, we have allowed people bringing in induction burners, so I believe provincially we'd allow one tabletop induction burner. Absolutely. Again, it's your space, and you can really bring, you know, whatever equipment. The only equipment that we really are really strict on is temperature control, precision equipment, i.e. sous vide and Thermomix. I do believe in the provincial we've denoted that you cannot make your own glaze in the Thermomix. It has to be made via this method. So that's a great question. Thanks for that.
And if you're listening and you don't know what a sous vide or a Thermomix is, that's okay. You'll learn about that when you come to culinary school. For now, we really want to see the fundamental cooking techniques. We want to see people doing this in a pot to demonstrate that they really know.
Over the double boiler and that whole process that Peter's demonstrating.
And again, one other note, when you're doing this, you don't want to get the water boiling underneath your custard, because if you do end up getting it boiling, it could end up scrambling your eggs. So you're going from a sauce to scrambled egg mix. So again, just a nice about 100, 120 degree water just to keep it nice and warm, and the eggs will thicken in time with it.
Perfect. 2-3 minutes maybe. And so why we've got such a high heat on the pâté sucré, the sweet dough, is because we want to cook it quickly. Because of the components with the creamed butter and the egg in there, we want to cook it and crisp it up very quickly. You don't want a long bake time. So that's why we've got the high temp 450, and it's a very short cook time. It puffs up and then it firms up. So you get a nice firm, crispy tart shell.
Really good.
Yeah, well, he's finishing that, and then obviously we can, you know, build the tart shell afterwards. I'll talk about so we're moving on to the entree now. So I'll start talking about the Thai green curry and the stir fry. So again, I made this ahead of time, and I had a pretty sharp blade. I don't know if you can see that. I had a pretty sharp blade in my RoboCoupe, and it's still a little bit kind of granular. So I don't think it's going to be able to get super smooth. I guess you could Vitamix it. I didn't try that, but you could probably throw it in the Vitamix and get it a little bit, you know, a little bit more processed. Because there's lemongrass in here, we're trying to use the tender center parts of the lemongrass, the shallots, you know, those types of ingredients, the cilantro. You'd really have to blend it with a high-speed blender to get it super smooth. Because I know when you buy commercially purchased Thai green curry paste, it is fairly processed. So that's going to come up to the, you know, the competitor's discretion, what they want to use. I don't mind a little bit of texture within that that green curry, because we're going to be making a coconut curry sauce with that, and so a little bit more texture in there is definitely not going to hurt it. So that's the green curry paste. Basically, what I did to make that is
sorry, question
sure.
online.
No problem.
How much play do we have with the recipes in terms of taste? Are we allowed to play with the flavor of the crème anglaise, for example?
I would say yes, as long as you've got a traditional crème anglaise on your dish. I would say if you had a slight variation to it, that really is, to me, kind of the embodiment of what skills is. You know, you take this project that's put together by a committee, and you know, we want to see some adaptation to it. Obviously, I think at the post-secondary level, we expect and see a lot more of that than we maybe would at the secondary level. But I think from a secondary level, it's definitely encouraged. And I think those little things show those skills and demonstrate that you've got a really good grasp of these basic techniques and concepts, and you're able to kind of elevate that. And really, from a skills perspective, I mean, that's what we're looking for, right? And that might set you apart from the pack and everyone else. So definitely, you know, we want to see some individuality with your dishes, and whether that's in the form of the garnishing and using the available ingredients that are there from that par stock, or like, you know, adding a slight variation. You know, one thing that we're not going to make today that I will talk about as well is your dessert sauce. So I know some regions, I think we've taken out the anglaise and we've made it a fruit sauce. just to kind of simplify because of the lack of time and lack of resources. So some regionals, talking with Alicia from Skills, we decided to take the anglaise out, just add the fruit sauce to kind of simplify things for those regions. But that being said, when they do come to provincials, they will be expected to obviously make the anglaise. Now for the fruit sauce, I'm just using a raspberry coulis, but I'll just briefly talk about that. So on your par stock, you do have some quite a bit of fresh berries there. You've also got, it's mostly fresh, so we don't have frozen on that. For provincials, we do have frozen berries and stuff in the par stock, but you've got blackberries, blueberries, strawberries. There is rhubarb there as well. So definitely, you know, making your fruit sauce, basic coulis, you know, simmering that in a pot with some sugar, touch of acid or lemon juice, and then processing that, straining that, and basically making your finished fruit sauce that you'll see. We pre-made this. This is a raspberry coulis that we use for our plating, so nice and smooth. But that's going to be that component there for the dessert. Now, just to kind of get back, I don't want to start the rice until we've got the anglaise off, just because this is kind of our you know, our baby right now. We're just trying to make sure that works out. So you want to do it on the back and
yeah,
then I'll start the pilaf. Oh yeah. Why don't we talk about that? Perfect. Things are moving fluidly, so we've got to be.
So hopefully we can take a look at our tots. Our tots, we got them just a very light golden brown because again, we don't want to make too dark because we're going to add our filling in. And then of course, if we make them too dark, we add our filling in, they go in, they're going to come out even darker on the color. So now once we've brought out our shells, I would allow you just to make sure they just cool down a little bit so it's not too hot.
And one note too that I'll just add in while Ian's working on that, you know, when you make this type of dough, the pâté sucré, it's going to shrink in the mold. So it's going to shrink to allow that release, so you should be able to lift it off. While he's filling though, you notice he's kept it in the mold. He's done that so that in case you're putting pressure on the outside edge, the last thing you want to do is have that crack before the finished tart is ready to plate. So realistically, you can keep that in the mold right until the end, and then you're able to kind of pop it out. So we'll leave it in there for the second bake when we put our streusel topping on. And there's a nice butter content in that streusel topping that Chef Campbell talked about, and that's basically hopefully going to kind of bubble up and get us that nice crispy top. So we have a second oven set for 350 that we can throw that finished tart in to kind of bubble the filling and cook that streusel top.
And if you notice, again, I'm not filling these all the way up to the top. I've left about a good 1/8 of an inch space at the top because again, when you put this back in, especially with the rhubarb filling, it does have a chance to expand because of the sugar in there. So we don't want it filled all the way up the top, then it all spills all over the place, and then you lose a really nice appearance of your tarts. And then we'll just sprinkle a little bit of the streusel over the top, trying to cover as much as we can.
And I'm also looking too, just to interject, and it talks about on the project filling a 6-inch, 15-centimeter tart shell. Obviously this is smaller than 6-inch, so it's up to the competitor to bring in their own tart shell, tart mold, whatever you want to use. That won't be provided for you. So, you know, whatever you're practicing. This is a great mold though, and for me, I think this is a really good portion size for what we're looking for, not only regionally, but also provincially, and then, you know, even nationally, right? This is a really nice portion size that you can garnish up, sauce your plate, have your own glaze, and have it all look really, really sharp.
Okay, so we're going to pop this in the oven for about another 10 or 15 minutes just till we get that nice, beautiful glazed up streusel, and we'll be ready for service then.
So we're just trying to get this on glaze. We're almost at, I think, the point where it's just starting to look a little bit thicker.
I just switched to a spatula so I can really feel, because I'm scraping the bottom. If you feel it start to stick, that means it's really thickening up quickly on you. You want to be able to react very quickly and pull it off the heat. And the last thing we'll do with that anglaise is just add our vanilla once we pull it off the heat. Stir that in really well. And then we'll let the anglaise cool down so that it's getting ready to serve the dessert. So why don't we finish this over here? We can have this stove.
Sure. Ian, do you mind just leave that a bit? Please. Here's your vanilla. It's like Peter mentioned, as it's cooling there, adding the vanilla right at the end. All right. So I'm going to talk about the rice pilaf. Then we'll make the curry sauce. And then at the very end, we'll do the whole stir fry, show you that whole process. One of these guys, we can saute that up, and awesome. Okay. So for that, we've got our pot ready. We've got our brunoise of mirepoix. So this is our mirepoix vegetables. We've got celery, onions, and carrots in a standard mirepoix. So there's, I believe, just make sure I quote you how much of this recipe I'm making, so you can kind of get a good idea of that. So this is a half recipe from what's there. That's 350 grams, so yeah, I did 150, so 175 grams of rice. So we've got the heat going there. Add our butter. Got our spoon. So the pilaf method, you're probably wondering what that's all about. I think we've had pilaf on projects before. Basically, it's cooking that rice and coating that rice in the fat before we add the stock. You can do the pilaf method. I know this recipe talks about the oven. You can consider it still a pilaf and do it on the stove, but it's not really the notion of what the pilaf is. The pilaf really is getting that rice coated in that fat, adding your stock, sauteing it with some vegetables as well, and then finishing cooking that. Whereas a standard rice, you would start with cold liquid, cold water if you're making just regular rice. Adding your rice to that, bringing it to a simmer with the lid on, and then cooking it kind of your standard rice method. So I've got my butter here, my butter's melted. I'm going to add my vegetables. Now obviously these vegetables are cut very small, being in brunoise form, which is pretty much our smaller brunoise, or our smallest cut. So we're able to cook that fairly quickly. And really all we want to do is just kind of sweat those vegetables, start getting the onions caramelized and softening up the celery and the carrots. So for pilaf method 2, I typically would like to have the stock hot and add the boiling stock to it, but it's not, totally, it doesn't need to necessarily be done that way.
It's not critical.
No, it's not critical. But if you're able to, it just speeds up the process, brings it to a simmer a whole lot quicker. So it does talk about in your recipe having it boiling. Like I said, it's not critical. So I'll add my rice. So this is the key component here. So it's no different if we were making a risotto. It'd be the same thing. You want to coat it in that fat and just get a little bit of browning. So just let that cook for a minute. I am going to add a little bit of seasoning because there's no seasoning in the stock. And what you'll be provided at our regional will be real stock. Same with provincials. So there's no seasoning in that. You can always adjust the seasoning. Don't add too much now because you can't take it out. So if you over salt it now, you're going to have a salty product and it's not going to turn out very good. So I added just a pinch, just kind of eyeballed it, and then when your finished product, when it's done and you've rested it, then you'll be able to kind of finish the seasoning and add, and remember you're also going to have seasoning in your stir fry items as well. So when you pour that sauce and stuff over the top, it'll be nice and seasoned. So that fat has coated that rice really nicely. So we've got a really nice coating of that rice. We've got our sweated vegetables there, our mirepoix. I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit. Add my stock. I'm going to use that oven after you. Okay. So now we'll bring it to a simmer. So keep in mind on day 2, well, I know for regional, so I'm skipping ahead to provincials. I don't want to get too far ahead. So keep in mind for your regional, the rice is probably one of those first things you kind of want to get rolling. You know it's going to take probably about, I'd say, half an hour to 40 minutes to cook. So make sure you get that going. Once your rice is cooked, you can keep that warm, keep that ready to go for plating. I was going to get kind of Peter to talk a little bit about organization, but I'll touch on it now. So for any competition, and again, I know Peter in previous years has really stressed this, being organized for plating is probably one of the most important aspects of your day, because that's kind of critical or crunch time. When you're under those time constraints of getting, 5-minute call, windows open for your dishes. Sorry, I'm just going to interject. Lid on, and this is going to go in the oven. You really want to do you want to take over? So I'm basically just talking about organization. So,
Yeah, sure.
sorry.
I'll kind of jump in. So, if anyone has worked in a restaurant and you're competing, you need to try to think about what are all the things we do in the restaurant to set ourselves up for success when we're putting food on the plate. And try to mimic that a little bit in your competition, the way you set up your table. So often what we see is students work hard all morning, getting all their food prepped, they get all the different components of their menu ready, they have all these pots and pans all over the stove, and then they go to start plating up, which is really where the medals are won or lost, I think, is how you get that food on the plate and how you get it out to the judge. And sometimes it just becomes a little bit chaotic. There's pots everywhere, there's messy spoons, and things spilling on the table. So the first thing I would suggest is clear your workspace, clear your table, and try to have all of the different food that's going on the plate organized in a system that works for you. So everyone might have their own unique system and it might look different for each chef competitor. But for me, I know one of the key things is if I'm going to be assembling food, I want to have all of the components in small containers as condensed as possible so it doesn't take up a lot of space on my table. So for example, if you're going to plate up the entree here, maybe you have your rice in a small bowl and your sauce in a small bowl and your garnish in a small bowl. Rather than going back and forth to the stove with a big pot each time, everything's right there in front of you. You can put your plates down and you can just make a few small movements reaching to and from that setup to put things together. So try to have that same approach throughout your whole day of cooking. Whatever it is that you're working on at that time should really be the only thing we're looking at on the table. If I'm judging and I'm walking through the kitchen, if you were, chopping your carrots for the stir fry an hour ago, and I come through and I see that you still have carrot peels and your peeler and carrot scraps on the table, that tells me that you're not cleaning up as you go and you're not very organized. So that's really, really important. Try to think about that throughout the entire process. Do we have any new questions at this point? Is there anything that we can expand on or spend a little more time on?
We have one question in terms of uniforms.
Yep.
One teacher is asking, saying that their school has white chef jackets with their school logo and their individualized student names on them. Would that student be penalized for wearing their chef jacket from school?
Yeah, when you get to so regionals, it's not it's not as much of an issue. But when you get to provincials, you have to have a clean jacket with no denotion of where you're from and what region you're from.
And this is really, it's not so much about the uniform, it's about not being able to identify competitors. We want the judging to be unbiased. We don't need any school rivalries happening or anyone feeling like they were treated unfairly because the judge went to the other high school or something like that. So by just eliminating any evidence of from school, we just take that out.
But again, for regionals, it's not a super big issue. You can wear your normal jacket.
But yeah, I just think that, as Peter said, just to take away that chance of, oh, that's my alma mater, oh, I'll give them a better mark. We don't want that. So we want it unbiased as much as we can. That's just about right.
We're going to pull the targets.
Yeah,
and then we'll start talking about the script. Right up front, you can get a shot of that. Screws will start with just up. I notice, I've got a bit of an admission. So we're using a Russian 11, but don't worry about that. It's got a fan, so the fan was on a little too high. I turned it down at the end. If I had turned it down kind of right off at the beginning, I had a little bit more color on that streusel topping, but it's definitely started to kind of crisp up. What you don't want to do though is bake it too long and then get that too dark. I'd say that's almost pretty much perfect.
So a good way of possibly cheating to just crisp up that strudel, if it, we could have it a little bit darker. You could use your torch very lightly, but again, be careful because you don't want to spend too long on that torch going over the strudel, just in case you darken your edges of your pastry itself. And also in the ovens that, especially at the provincial level, you've got the broiler or the electric broiler part on that. You could use that, but be very careful because again, that heat, you don't want it in there too long, otherwise it will darken up and around your pastry, and you've lost a beautiful product by darkening it too much and giving it a bitter taste for the judges for the final concept. So they do. And as you can see now, we can just literally lift our rings off. And then, but again, personally, I would still leave that ring on until it cools down, till you're ready for service.
All right.
Yes, we have a question.
Are sous vide allowed?
No. No sous vides. No sous vide machines. We want skills. We don't want anybody just packing it in a bag, throwing it in hot water and letting it cook. We want to see what skills you've got. Let me move this up.
I will say this. So regionally, no, we're not bringing in any sous vide, but I will talk provincially. So even with the secondary, we say the use of precision control, because again, this mirrors national. So nationally, must be limited to no more than one application over the 2-day contest. Yes, we would absolutely like to see every single skill, but you can limit, you're limited to one use for the whole competition, but we have denoted in the scope that you are not allowed to use a thermal mix or the heated mixer for your anglaise. We have to see this method that was demonstrated today. So yes, we're not allowing it at the regional level. Provincially, we are stating that you are allowed for one application only. But realistically, I'm going to say this from a professional standpoint. Secondaries, don't worry about sous vide. There's plenty of time for that. When you get to post-secondary, I think you'll be able to find an application for that. But really looking at the scope that we've got this year, we're doing the stir fry, we're doing the anglaise, we're doing the tart. I don't really see an area where you can incorporate sous vide that is really going to benefit you. And I think that's really important to kind of consider. Don't get too caught up in that. It's a great question, appreciate it, but I would honestly, just to kind of guide you, I would steer clear of sous vide. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that curry sauce. I've got my mise en place here. All right, so what you're going to do, you're going to start out with your pot, you're going to heat your oil over a moderate heat. And make sure when you add your curry sauce that it's going to splatter up a little bit. Thai green curry. My pot was really hot. There we go, it'll calm down. This induction. So you basically cook this until it's aromatic. Quite a few ingredients in that curry paste, so you can really start to smell the lemongrass, the galangal, which is the root that's very similar to ginger, but it's got almost like a kind of a piney finish to it. So there you go. So watch your temperature. And mine was a little high with that oil, and just kind of cooking that till aromatic, which I think we're good. So then you're going to add your I'm using water just to kind of thin it down a little bit. Bring it to a simmer. Now you'll find a lot of coconut milk is separated. Don't stress when you open the can. When you pour this into the pot, it hits the heat. We're going to whisk it together. You should be able to get it nice and smooth. So we simmer that. We're going to add our coconut milk. And our fish sauce. So see, you'll just kind of have to break it up, and I'll show you in a second. Now when you taste your sauce, obviously you can measure out what you need for your Thai green curry paste. If you're not 100% happy with the flavor, you can add more. If you find you've got too much, you can add less. Well, you can add less if you practice it and maybe you want to dial it back in this competition. But obviously you're not going to be able to. Now don't stress, this is going to look a little bit thin. When you add it to the pan and you start cooking it with your vegetables and your stir fry, it will thicken up a little bit. Now I'm just going to cook my, let this simmer a little bit. Give it a taste, see where we're at. Obviously, during competition, you want to be tasting everything.
Most important. Very good way for the judges to give you extra points when they see you trying and tasting your food as you go. That lets the judges know that you're very conscious of what the product is looking and tasting like.
Realistically, with this Thai green curry sauce, if I were competing, I'd probably be reducing it down. So I would just cook this on the stove a little bit longer, kind of reduce it down, get it to thicken up a little bit, and just basically getting this ready. Now remember, for this, you need to make this ahead of time. So this Thai curry, the green curry paste, I would get made right off the bat. So you've got that ready, and get your sauce going. Really, it's all about organization, right? Kind of making, you're not necessarily going to do things exactly how it's listed on the project as far as how you're presenting it. You have to look at, okay, what needs to rest? What takes a little bit more time? All these factors are going to come into play as far as your work plan that you're going to have. And kind of the list and the order that you're going to be, doing things. We've already kind of given you some pointers and some key notes to that. So,
and again, obviously with your coach, you're going to be practicing the dishes, I would imagine, individually to start with, to get a feel for how long it took you to prep it, and then you'll most likely figure out, well, it took me 15 minutes to do that, 45 minutes to do that, and then you can start, work your plan together. Well, we're going to start with this, we're going to do this. While that's on the stove, I'm going to start doing this. I can go back and check on my my sauce, see how it's reducing down, see how it's thickening up. And again, sometimes we have to be multitask, and especially with the 3.5 hours that you have to prepare everything, it will take that.
I wish we had smell-o-vision in here, because I bet you the ladies here can probably attest to the nice smells going on. So this smells fantastic. So I'm getting that fish, I'm getting that coconut, I'm getting lemongrass, all these key components in this green curry. So I'm just cooking this down. Again, we're not, in a major rush here. We're just trying to get this sauce looking good. And then we'll be moving into the stir fry and finish off with that. We'll plate up the tart with the anglaise, the fruit sauce, and like I said, we're going to do the stir fry. Well, we're going to get going on the stir fry. I'm going to get Peter to come over and do the veg, and I'm going to head over there and I'll put you clean up the salmon, and then I'll bring that.
Alright. So we have some veggies here. Let's do a close-up with the camera if we can and just show the different cuts of the vegetables. So part of what we're really looking for at the high school level is that you're learning some knife skills. You're getting comfortable with the tools of the trade and how to use them, and you're able to identify some of these classical cuts and techniques that are a big part of your fundamentals as a young chef. So we have a few different cuts here that we've put together, and I believe at provincials you actually have to demonstrate these cuts specifically.
Correct.
So we thought we would show you these for regionals and you can practice them for your stir fry. So we'll go from my left to right here. So we have green peppers that are cut in sort of a lozenge shape or a diamond shape. So you don't see this one too often, but it's a nice one to do and it can add a nice visual to your dish. So what I've got here is just a piece of the green pepper. I cut the ends off and then I took the middle out with my knife. It gives you a nice flat piece to work with. We're going to cut some small strips here. And then I'm just going to take these at an angle and cut little diamonds. So you can see how easy that was. This is a really easy cut, but it just adds a nice visual appeal, makes it stand out a little bit more than just doing a plain square dice of vegetable. And then next to it, this is actually we'll switch these. So we'll do the small dice first. So small dice is a 1/4 inch cube, 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. So for something like a carrot, to be able to do a nice dice, you have to start with a flat surface that you can put down on your cutting board. So I'm just going to square off the carrot a little bit here. And that way I can cut nice straight lines without it rolling around on my cutting board. It's also safer to try to work with once you have a nice flat surface. So what I want to do is just give myself a 1/4 inch piece there. And another 1/4 inch piece. And when you're learning these cuts, it doesn't hurt to actually pull out a ruler and just check the size so you know what you're looking for. And then I flip them on their side and I do another 1/4 inch. And then I turn those one more time. So now I essentially have like a French fry cut. So that's a batonette, which you may have heard of, or a baton. Now we turn that again and we just dice it into another 1/4 inch cube. Just like that. So that's our small dice. Now with medium dice, it's the same thing, but I think with medium dice, we're looking at a 1/2 inch cube. Just pull that out, so 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. So we've got some zucchini here. So you're thinking about it the same way. You just maybe need to square it off a little bit. We're gonna cut, and then dice, dice, dice. And in the competition, it's okay if these aren't perfectly measured, but what the judges will notice is that they're consistent. So if you have your zucchini and every single piece is a different size, the judges will notice that right away. If you have your zucchini and it's slightly bigger or slightly smaller, that's not a big deal. That's not really what we're testing on. We don't expect you to pull out a measuring tape when you're at the competition. So then large dice, same principle applies, but these are 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch. So this is our eggplant here. So just some nice cubes of that. So there's some veggies. Now, really what we've shown here is precision and technique. And once this goes into your stir fry, you're going to impress the judges with those knife skills, and they'll be able to see that difference on the finished plate. So it's really good to spend a bit of extra time training and mastering these techniques. Now, Chef Jason, I think you're going to start to work on the stir fries.
Correct. All right, so we've got our beautiful Thai green curry sauce, and that's ready to go. Perfect. So I don't really know, I just double checked. Our brown rice, unfortunately, is probably not going to be ready for plating. So what I'll do is I'll bowl this up, I'll show you guys the finished stir fry and kind of what that looks like. But unfortunately our rice, we were just too tight on time. So I know in the scope, but I just noticed the regional mentions a mystery fish. Well, for the regional, it's not going to be a mystery fish. I'm going to tell you that in the Edmonton region, and I think all other regions, probably easiest, we provide salmon fillets. So it's just going to be Atlantic salmon fillet. I've cut this up ahead of time. And really, you've got to kind of look at your portion size. So we're asking for a total of 6 shrimp and 100 grams of fish. So I'm probably not going to use all of this. I'm going to say 100 grams is probably going to be about that much. So when I'm sauteing it, I will show you how that's going to go. But 6 shrimp, and that's portion. So we do want to look at that. When you get your marks for your portion size and your portion control, that will all be part of it. Judges will be looking for 6 shrimp in each bowl, approximately 100 grams of the salmon. Now again, for provincials, the mystery fish, realistically, any round fish in that salmonoid category, so fresh salmon, trout, Arctic char, those are all different possibilities that you may see. I mean, you very well for provincials might see salmon. So that is just out there. We've got a little bit of garnish. That's fantastic. So I'm going to get going. If I talk too much, we're going to run out of time. So a little bit of oil in your pan. Because the vegetables are all small and fairly smally cut, we're going to get our seafood going in the oil. We add our sauce, and then we finish cooking. In the sauce. I'm actually probably going to add the veg before I add the sauce. I know the recipe says different, but we're going to hopefully get a little bit more flavor out of those vegetables by sauteing them a little bit before we add our sauce. Ideally, I would like to add the sauce kind of right at the end. Finish simmering that vegetable and your seafood in your sauce, and then plating it. So there's a little bit of a differing recipe from the PC recipe that's in there. Hopefully this pan doesn't stick too much. Ideally, you probably, when you're working with salmon and stuff, a non-stick pan is going to ensure we're not going to have any sticking. So I've got my oil in my pan. But if your pan is nice and hot, your salmon and your shrimp. Now some other things that I don't have here, and I know these ingredients are in your sauce, a little bit of extra garlic, a little bit of ginger. Might be really nice in here. Again, that's up to you. I'm going to season this. I don't want to season it too much, but I am cooking some protein. So I want to make sure I do add some seasoning, even though my sauce is already semi-seasoned. If you are using stainless steel, the key to cooking that and any sort of fish or seafood is you don't want to start trying to scrape at your pan too much, or your fish is just going to fall apart. Obviously using the salmon, see how nicely that comes off. I've got beautiful color to it. A lot of chefs, or young chefs will kind of get in there and just start, tossing it about. I do want to be fairly gentle with this. because the seafood is not going to take that long to cook. See, my shrimp are already rolling. And I don't want to break up all that fish. So I just kind of want to be gentle with this. Just kind of agitating the pan. Remember, when you add your sauce, it's going to finish cooking. So now I'm going to add my vegetables, because I want to kind of saute those a little bit. See, just gentle. My fish doesn't break up. Add a little bit more seasoning. We always, as chefs, we say we season in layers. So as I've added a raw ingredient, I'm going to add a little bit of seasoning. And that's going to make sure we kind of get that depth of seasoning that we're looking for. If you just add salt at the end of a dish, I guarantee it's going to take a whole lot more salt to get that dish, kind of that finished seasoning. Just going to add a tiny bit more oil just to help get that veg going. And we're very close to adding our sauce. So as you can see, 6 shrimp, 100 grams, it's still quite a bit. So you're going to want to leverage how much rice you're putting in your bowl. Now I know, unfortunately, the rice is not going to be ready, but you're going to want to definitely watch. You're not adding too much rice to your stir fry. All right, so now we're at a point where I'm going to add our sauce. And wow, that smells good. Look at that, beautiful. And now we're just finished simmering things. So you notice, salmon wasn't fully 100% cooked before I added my veg, and neither was the shrimp. I don't want to overcook things, so that's why I was adding things in stages. And like I said, modify your recipe a bit, add your veg to your pan when you've still got your seafood in there with a little bit of oil, and just get a little bit of color on that veg. So now, just like we talk about, right? Taste, taste, taste. Let's see where we're at. Is my veg cooked enough?
There's a question, Jason. Do we have to blanch the vegetables like it says in the recipe?
Oh, previously blanched, yes. Yes, forgot the step. No big deal. So blanch them, and then you will be able to just add them at the end.
Personally, I definitely blanch your carrots more than anything. Your zucchini and your eggplant, your peppers, you will find fry up a lot more easier. But yes, I would blanch
The carrots
first.
Yeah. Good catch.
So
why don't we grab the finished dessert plate?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
We kind of done a basic little decoration here with our custard sauce. Again, what I did was I put it in a plastic bottle. There, Peter. So I have the sauce in the bottle, and again, this is a really nice way of putting it on, because you can just, without even squeezing it, you just let that sauce flow on. And this is the creme anglaise that Peter made, and we cooled it down. Then I took a little raspberry sauce, and then just took a very fine stick and then just wafted it in, and it gives you a nice little integration, like you can get a nice sunburst on it. Or you could put some nice little dots on there with your sauce, and then decorate it up with some of the fruits. Sometimes, especially with the dessert, I would go keep it simple, because if you try to put too much on, it doesn't work. You got the sauce, you got a little bit of garnish, and away you go. And you don't have to have, oh, we have to have this, we have to have that. If you feel yourself artistic and you wanted to add one more element with some little bit of chocolate curl on there, well, go for it. Nobody would stop you for doing that. But again, keep it very simple.
So we did have one question. I was just notified about, do we have to include all 4 of those vegetables in our stir fry? Yes, because again, provincially, those are going to be part of the day 1 competencies. So we do our veg cuts, we produce those, we present those veg cuts, and then And then yes, incorporating all of that in your stir fry. So you will be docked points or marks if you don't have all those veg in your stir fry. So I'll just show you, that wasn't necessarily all of it. Now, when you're plating it, I know we've said 6 shrimp, 100 grams of fish. I definitely held some back. I very well might have had a little too much fish, as well as the veg we didn't really measure. So make sure your portion size looks appropriate, right? You definitely don't want to have too much of your overall product. Then you're definitely going to look at potentially getting docked marks for your presentation. So we've just got a little bit of fresh cilantro, some fine julienne of red pepper, and there's our finished stir fry, which I tasted. Tastes very nice. Sorry about the lack of rice on there, but you guys got the process of making the rice, and then obviously having that right amount underneath your stir fry, I think is going to be so key.
Do we have any more questions before we
sign off?
So if there is any more questions, don't be scared to contact myself or Jason through the website, and we'll be able to answer the questions for you. So hopefully that's been very helpful for you guys and gals. We all look forward to seeing you all at the regional, and then when we're finished at the regional, we'll be moving on to the provincial. So good luck. Happy cooking, and we look forward to seeing you guys.
Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Take care.